What if we dropped the most powerful atomic bomb right into the deepest part of the ocean? Hold on to your hats, because the explosion of information starts now. The abyssal gaze, nuclear challenge in the Mariana Trench. Imagine humanity's most feared weapon. A nuclear bomb of unimaginable power being detonated in the deepest place on our planet, the Mariana Trench, at nearly 11,000 meters deep. This underwater abyss could swallow Mount Everest whole with room to spare. But what would happen if the devastating force of a nuclear warhead met the extreme conditions of this realm of darkness? Absolute pressure. The first explosive hurdle. The first thing to understand is the pressure. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is about 1,100 times greater than at the surface. That means over a ton per square centimeter. This colossal pressure would have an immediate impact on the detonation. The water, under such extreme compression, would offer brutal resistance to the initial shockwaves expansion. Instead of a giant fireball like we see in atmospheric tests, we'd have a much more contained and violent expansion of superheated water. Ephemeral luminescence, a flash in total darkness. The nuclear explosion would release an absurd amount of energy, including light, in the completely dark environment of the Mariana Trench. This flash would be a unique and terrifying event. An intense and fleeting sphere of light would be created, briefly illuminating abyssal creatures never before seen in such clarity. However, this light would be quickly absorbed by the water, with its reach significantly shorter than in an air explosion. The deadly dance of underwater shockwaves. The primary destructive force would be the underwater shockwave. Unlike air shockwaves, which dissipate quickly, waves in water are much more efficient at transferring energy over long distances. The explosion would generate a massive pressure wave that would propagate throughout the trench and beyond. This wave would be capable of crushing anything in its immediate path, including the strange life forms adapted to the extreme conditions of the deep. Abyssal tsunami, an invisible monster ascending. While it wouldn't generate a colossal tsunami like a large magnitude underwater earthquake, the nuclear explosion in the Mariana Trench would create significant water displacement waves. These waves, upon encountering the edges of the trench and the rising sea, could amplify and generate smaller, yet still dangerous, tsunamis in nearby coastal areas. The intensity of these tsunamis would depend on the exact power of the bomb and the specific geology of the region. Silent radiation. The invisible and lethal legacy. One of the most lasting effects would be radioactive contamination. The radioactive materials released by the explosion would disperse into the water, affecting the entire marine food chain in the region. Creatures that survived the shockwave would be exposed to dangerous levels of radiation, with long-term genetic and ecological consequences. The slow underwater currents at depth would cause this contamination to spread gradually, affecting distant ecosystems over time. Geological impact. A tremor in the depths. The force of the explosion could also cause geological instability in the immediate area of the detonation. Underwater landslides would be likely, and depending on the proximity of tectonic faults, it could even trigger small local earthquakes. However, it's unlikely that a single nuclear explosion, no matter how powerful, would cause a large-scale seismic event that affects entire continents. Ecological consequences. A fragile ecosystem at the limit. The unique and highly specialized ecosystem of the Mariana Trench would suffer a devastating blow. Creatures adapted to darkness, extreme pressure, and unusual food sources would be decimated. The recovery of this environment would take thousands, perhaps millions of years. The introduction of radioactive materials would make the situation even more complex, with unpredictable mutations and ecological imbalances, a forbidden experiment. Ignorance as the highest risk. Dropping a nuclear bomb into the Mariana Trench would have no scientific or strategic benefit. It would be an act of pure environmental destruction with potentially unknown and far-reaching consequences for the oceans. The forces at play in the deep sea are vast and complex, and such a drastic intervention could trigger unpredictable side effects on a global scale. In summary, detonating the most powerful nuclear bomb in the Mariana Trench would be a catastrophic event, marked by a devastating underwater shockwave, a brief flash of light in the abyss, localized tsunamis, lasting radioactive contamination, and the destruction of a unique ecosystem. Fortunately, it's a purely hypothetical scenario, but imagining the consequences helps us understand the destructive power of these weapons and the importance of protecting our oceans, even their deepest and most mysterious corners. What did you think of this explosion of information? Leave your comment and tell us what other apocalyptic scenario makes you curious. Don't forget to subscribe for more shocking and informative videos.